Welcome to the Prowler Podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Joel Carwile with us, and we're ready to dive into his college and professional journey in football while also shedding light on his recruiting experience from West Limestone High School in Leicester, Alabama, where he left there and went to the University of North Alabama. And Joel brings a unique perspective to the table due to being a part of the walk-on experience. So, without further ado, let's turn it over to Joel as he introduces himself and shares more about his background.
Hey, appreciate it, Will. Thank you, guys. One of the things, fellas, that I get an opportunity to go and speak to football teams almost on a regular basis. I was at West Limestone, my alma mater, just this past Friday, right before their blue and white game, and talking to those guys about the love of the game and enjoying the journey. And again, the last time I played at West Limestone was 43 falls ago, and so I emphasize that to those young men on Friday evening. And then the referees came in and talked to them because the referees trying to get some reps in as well. But talking to those guys and even opportunities to share, the love of high school football, Friday Night Lights, all the movies that's been made about it, Netflix series about it, all of those things, so very important for young men, and I love how coaches will take the game of football and help to develop young men, instilling character, integrity, those types of things. And so for me, I had two high school coaches. Coach Mike Nave was my head football coach in 10th and 11th grade year at West Limestone. And then he went and took another job. And then Bill Hamilton, who played at Ole Miss, he signed a football scholarship there. He was from down around the Florence area, and he was a first-year head football coach for us. We went 8-2. It was again, like I said, four decades ago, we didn't qualify for any state. Tanner High School, which is one of our arch rivals, beat us in our homecoming game my senior year, and they got to go to the state playoff at 9-1. We got to stay home at 8-2, and we were peaking toward the end of the season. And I just got to tell you guys, 4 decades have gone by. I don't like them to this day. And see, that's the thing about being a pastor and a preacher of the gospel, and I have to deal with this every football season. So for 43 football seasons, I've had to deal with this, and the Lord will speak to me and say, you need to deal with this unforgiveness that you've got in your heart. But anyway, with that said, I finished up my football career at West Limestone in the fall of 81, and then played baseball in the spring of 82, graduated high school. Now, my original intent was to walk on at Auburn University. They had a guy named like Bo Jackson and some of these other guys that were at Auburn at the time. But to my benefit, I was hurt in a baseball game in the summer of 1982 and did not get to walk on at Auburn. And so I chose to just come a little closer to home and walk on at the University of North Alabama. And guys, just thinking back, because it's been so long now and it's such a different game today, those guys treated me well. You hear a lot of these war stories about walk-ons and how they get treated and that type of thing. But my experience was a good experience. Wayne Grubb, Hall of Fame coach, was our football coach at UNA at the time. And I just happened to walk on, Will, when they were in the midst of winning 3 straight Gulf South Conference championships when they were still Division II. So here I was. I had Stanley Gill, All-American, in front of me at fullback. And then I had Richard Cunningham, a big white kid from Vero Beach, Florida. The reason why I can remember his name 4 decades later is it's Richard Cunningham from Happy Days. So I remember this guy's name. And I remember finishing the spring, and I met with Coach Grubb on April the 28th, 1983. And that was my birthday. That was my 19th birthday. And he says, "Man, Joel, you've had a great spring, but we don't have anything for you." Again, remember, this is Division II. There was not an expectation of any kind of full ride, but you would think, hey, maybe they can do something. Well, my parents had sacrificed so that I could pursue my dream, and I was unable to keep my end of the bargain with some type of scholarship. So I'd had a few offers in baseball when I was in high school. And so I contacted a buddy of mine, Brian Nelson, in Athens, and who was a pitcher. And he said, "Hey, won't you call our coach and let's talk to him?" And so I did. And he said, "Hey, I remember you in one of these Lions annual games, whatever." He says, "You don't even have to come down and throw for me. Just come and sign this scholarship." So then I played at Wallace State for a year. And Will, I was telling Preston earlier, I love baseball, but I really, really loved football. I could hit people, and it was legal. And so it was a situation, at least for me. I enjoyed having my education paid for, but it was not the same. And so then I went into the workforce, and in the midst of that, guys, I felt like I was being called into the ministry, and I was running from the Lord. And then I finally said yes to the Lord. And as they say, the rest is history. But I've had a pretty incredible journey. And then later on, getting married, and then Joe and I, the Lord, we waited 13 years before we had a kid. And then Zeke comes along, and then our little girl Danny is born in the front seat of the car. I don't advise that. And on the way to the hospital on the Watterson Highway in Louisville, Kentucky. And then Zeke grows up. We do the ball thing. I was telling you guys, there's Zeke when he was a little guy, and then grew up, played here at Westminster Christian Academy. Preston reached out to us, wanted to help us do with some recruiting, and we appreciated all his efforts and things. And then Zeke sort of lands at Campbellsville University with a presidential scholarship. Everything's paid for, and he gets to play football on the side, which is what every kid dreams of. That, okay, my education is taken care of, whether it's a football scholarship or not. But now he's getting to sort of fulfill his dream, and I'm trying to live vicariously through him. So that's sort of a synopsis, Will. I don't know what else as far as details and things, but I enjoyed high school sports. And to this day, I get to be a chaplain on the sidelines with Shelby Davis over at West Limestone High School. Coach LeBlanc at Westminster Christian Academy invites me to come and speak to the team, especially during Zeke's senior year. And, we made that run to the Final Four. Yep. And we were ready to go down, to I think it was Auburn or wherever the state championship was going to be played. But we ran into that buzzsaw that let us know that 4A ball in North Alabama is a little bit different than 4A ball a little bit further south. But
yeah, Cherokee County was rough last year. I mean,
dude, Preston, good night almighty, it was unbelievable.
I think I've shown Will some highlights of that running back they had that was playing quarterback pretty much towards the end of the year. That Cornejo kid, Will.
Oh yeah, he's a great kid too.
Yeah, that kid is special. I don't see how he's not a D1 running back. I would be honest.
Preston, isn't he? He is up in NAI. Yeah. Didn't he come up to Lindsey Wilson or somewhere like that up in Kentucky?
I want to say he's at Cumberland University up there.
Did he go? University of Cumberland's. Is that right, or is it Cumberland University in Tennessee?
I think it's the one in Kentucky.
Okay. Listen,
no, don't count my word on that.
I understand. Listen, Zeke said, Dad, that dude was a maniac to try to tackle. But then they took him out, at halftime because we wound up getting beat 50-6. But we realized pretty quickly those boys could play. And then they go down and get spanked in the state championship game. And you go, good night almighty. But it was a great run, though. It was a great run. So
yeah.
I think that's the best background we've gotten so far from a guest podcast. Preston.
I'm sorry, Will. I'm a preacher, and I've talked way too much.
Oh no, you're good. That's perfect, man. You
gave us awesome detail.
Every single event, everything. You talked about, high school and everything. But so I guess starting off here, Mr. Joel, so what steps did you take in high school to get to where you were able to walk on at UNA?
We had running back coach and the strength coach come up and do some 40 times for us on campus to see if we were interested. Do y'all remember Southwestern at Memphis? It's now Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. I took a visit to Southwestern. It was a Division III school, and I really loved their little campus. It sort of reminds me of Campbellsville University, where Zeke is now. But, we went through that process, and, I've got a book somewhere in my office here. Got a letter from Auburn, got a letter from, at the time, Memphis State, Jacksonville State, and me and two of my teammates, Brian Senior and Andy Moran, took an official visit down to Jack State when Coach Fuller was there. And, man, really enjoyed Jacksonville State. But I got to tell you guys, back 43 years ago, I'm about 5'10". At that time was about 190. and watching those boys go by, I said, there is no way these guys are Division II. And of course, now they're all Division I and FCS, both UNA and Jack State and all those guys. But, the steps that I took, Will, again, I thought I was going to Auburn. I'd taken my ACT. I'd gotten pre-qualified. I was going to walk on at Auburn. I had all those things taken care of, and then I get injured, which is a story of a lot of these kids, that are walking on. And I got to tell you, nobody from Auburn was calling saying, hey, Joel, what happened? That kind of thing. Because it was just, I wasn't a 5-star, 3-star, 2-star, any of those kind of things. But, I think the Lord had my, my situation planned out. And I wound up going to UNA, made some great relationships that I still have to this day with guys who are now in the ministry. But for me, Will, it was me making sure that I made the right phone calls. Now, again, that was in a day before, these things. And, I was tickled. I had a 30-foot cord on my phone that hung from the wall, and we were on a party line with my Uncle JW down the road. I mean, it was just a different day, but you had to be the one as a walk-on to initiate the calls. And that's what I loved about Preston and this type of business is that he does that legwork for the athlete where me 43 years ago, I had to do it, and it was such a different day of making phone calls, leaving your number with a secretary, and of course, if your last name wasn't Jackson or one of these other prime guys, very rarely did you get a call back. But UNA was good to me. Don't misunderstand. They appreciated me coming down. They had come to watch me. Now they didn't offer any scholarship, coming out of high school, that type of thing. But they already had Stanley Gill, All-American fullback from Hartselle, Alabama. So who is this kid from West Limestone at the time? A little 2A school, and so. That's a long answer to a short question, Will, but for me, I had to do all the legwork myself. Right. I appreciated my coaches, and my coaches, probably made a call or two, but again, during my time of recruiting, it was up to the athlete and to the athlete's parents if you were not a 5-star or 4-star, something like that.
And you say that, Joel, it's still pretty much that way. If you're the athlete and you're not trying to push yourself out there, still to this day, and use all the social media gadgets to your advantage, you can get quickly overlooked. It's very seen every day. I mean, Will has seen it prime out of a private school in Memphis. You can get quickly overlooked very quickly, especially with how sports is changing so much all the way from the high school level to the collegiate level now. Because Tennessee just passed the NIL to come to the high school level now, so it's gonna change the the sports perspective tremendously. There's not going to be much loyalty anymore when you get to that certain level. So it's kind of a heart feeling thing too, because kids are not going to play ball for the right reasons really anymore either. They're going more for the money, which. Some situation you can't doubt it because you don't know how long your career is going to last.
Sure.
But I think main reason Nick Saban retires because there's no fundamentals behind it anymore, and it's a big drop off, and it's a big change from when you played to now. So it's a dynamic topic for sure right now. So.
Well, Joel, what year did you graduate? What year did you enter college?
So. I graduated high school in May of 1982, way before either one of you guys were born. And
what year did Dad graduate high school, Preston?
Our dad graduated high school and went to Northern Arizona University. He played ball there.
Okay.
Yeah. Our dad was a 4-star recruit. He's in the blue chip book with Jerry Rice.
He was in the blue chip book.
Whatever year Jerry Rice graduated high school is the year my dad came out.
Was that 84?
I think it was 84, 85, somewhere around there.
Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State, and nobody took a chance.
Was in there with him too.
Become a Hall of Famer from a HBCU school. So that's incredible.
He's a great story to talk about too. Because a lot of people wrote him off because of his size.
Yeah,
he was too. Everybody said he was too skinny. Every time he showed up to the camps, that was a response. You need more weight on you.
And Preston, one of the things that you and I talked about, Zeke, Jerry Rice, who is now a Hall of Famer, but he just outworked everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He'd get Terrell Owens and those guys on that hill in California and kill those guys. The ESPN did some spots on them, but that's what we kept just reiterating to Zeke. Zeke, just be the hardest worker in the room. I don't care who is in there. Just work. And then when everybody else is finished, you keep working. And we're sort of seeing some of the benefits of that even now at Campbellsville of just, Zeke, just work hard and those good things will come. But again, playing so long ago compared to today, Preston, you got us some conversations with some guys that would have never known about Zeke unless you would have stood in there with us, and said, hey, you need to look at this kid. I mean, he's a 5'10" white kid from, a Christian academy in North Alabama, but, just give him a look. And some of these guys, you tried to help us to, get up to Lindsey Wilson to make a visit and, 3 or 4 other schools. And I think by that time we'd pretty much settled our heart on Campbellsville. But, if you don't have somebody helping you and then have the self-initiative to say, listen, if this is part of your dream, you got to go for it. And so you got to get on social media. You got to put your stats out there. You got to keep doing that over and over again. And so, you guys were a great help, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, what Preston has created at the Prowler is pretty amazing, because you don't see many people doing what Preston is doing all the work for the athlete and building a platform for these kids to, go play ball at the next level. And I think it's great what he's doing. And it definitely helps with the way college football is changing. It's changing, and these kids aren't getting the looks because a lot of these big coaches, they're going to the transfer portal most of the time. But there's nothing wrong with that. But it's changing. That's how it is. But
that's why when I bring athletes on, I think I even mentioned this to you, Joel. Is there's nothing wrong with going to Division II or JUCO anymore, because with the transfer portal as it is now, if you get in there and you put the work in, you have the eligibility to go up to the Division I level. We see it every year. There's kids that, like Lyle McConkey at Georgia last year. Nobody expected him to be the premier receiver, or Little Long, the number 1 receiver right now at the Los Angeles Chargers. But he stuck it out and realized what path he had to take due to the new environment. And that's the new norm we see every day now. We see these guys getting granted fifth and 6th years because they're they stayed in the system and went to a smaller school and built their way up. So,
hey, I got to tell you guys this story real quick. So Zeke, again, he'll be 19 in December. So he shows up early to work out at Campbellsville with a strength coach and linebacker coach and stuff during the summer. And so he's getting after it pretty good. And he says, I said, well, Zeke, how's it going? He said, Dad, the difference between an 18-year-old body and a 24-year-old body is a lot of difference. And I said, well, who's 24? He said, well, we've got some young men on our team that because of COVID year and then a medical year, they're now 24 years old. And academically, they're not even a senior yet, simply because they've been in so many different schools. And again, this is not a negative. It's just sort of how it is now. And if I'm a coach that's got to put food on the table, and I have the opportunity to go from an 18-year-old kid that's going to take 2 more years to put a little meat on his bones to a kid that's already, super fly and ready to get out there after it, who am I going to choose? And so, Preston, we talked about some of that, it's being willing to be patient and get in there, get in a program, work the system, that type of thing. And so we're pretty pumped about where we are. Coach Atwood and those guys made Zeke feel like he was a 5-star, and he wasn't, but they made him feel that way, like, hey, we want you here. And I think that makes a big difference, especially for a kid that's coming, that's undersized, undervalued, but's got a big old heart. And, Preston, you kept telling us, hey, you go where your heart is, you pursue that. And the Lord opened up that opportunity for us to do that. And we're excited about it.
Yeah, and COVID year, that messed up a lot of, like, even in high schoolers their last year, because coaches had to recruit off of, they didn't know who was coming back and who wasn't.
Yeah,
like, so there wasn't really many spots to these colleges, and then COVID, obviously, it messed up a lot of things, and now you're seeing it. These 24-year-olds are getting granted one more year.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they didn't get to play that year. I mean, it's in the medical year, obviously, but it's
Will, you
also
familiar with Huntington College in Montgomery?
I've heard of it, yes, sir.
Huntington's a great Division III school down there. They really made a play for Zeke, and man, we love their culture and all of the above. They won Division III conference championships in both the spring of COVID and then the fall.
Wow.
Because their fall season got canceled and moved to the spring, and so they've got a championship ring that they have down there that's got spring champ on one side and fall champ on the other, which I thought was pretty cool. So everybody had to make adjustments. It was just how it was.
Yeah, correct. I mean, Will knows how it is. He graduated from high school during the COVID.
Did you? Okay.
I came to Ole Miss to walk on, and then the GM here at the time, Matt Lindsay, he told me, stay ready in the fall, and we'll see you in the spring. And end of the season comes around, and I'd never heard from Matt Lindsay again. I think he ended up leaving, and we had a bunch of coaches leaving. And then in the spring, I had to go try out, and they only took a couple guys. It was like juniors. They were juniors. They came from JUCOs, and they came and tried out, and then they took them and kind of just messed me up. I mean, I'm blessed still. I mean, I'm at a great school, so I mean.
Amen.
Yeah. But speaking of walking on and stuff, can you describe to us how the walk-on experience was and how impactful a walk-on can be on the team?
I think all of us that play the game undersized but with a lot of passion, I think you have guys that are 6'2", 225 that have all of the physical tools, and then they see someone that is not as fast, not as strong or whatever, but they're out there, still getting after it and that type of thing. And that maybe that kid that has all the tools is under scholarship, and here's a kid just trying to, trying to make a travel team or trying to make the kickoff or kickoff return. I think there's some inspiration in that. And kids, as they grow up and as they mature a little bit more, I think they see that kid that's 18, 19 years of age, and they go, you know what, maybe there is something to this character and integrity thing that can inspire even those tremendous athletes. We're going to wind up watching them play on Sundays one day. I know that for me, which was pretty crazy, when I walked on in the spring of '83 at UNA. The USFL, United States Football League, Donald Trump owned the New Jersey Generals at that time in the 80s. Herschel Walker went and played for him. But I had 3 guys that I played with at UNA that spring that wound up going to the Jacksonville Bulls of the USFL. Rusty Towery was our quarterback. We had a big tight end. We had a big defensive lineman that wound up playing at that next level. And of course, it wasn't the National Football League, but it was still professional ball, and they were getting paid to do that. And they were coming from Division II UNA. So I think part of those conversations that we have as walk-ons, I can remember walking through the CAF at between Rivers and Rice Hall on the campus of UNA. And it was one of those moments where here I was, an 18-year-old kid in the spring, and I've got my plate in my hand, and our quarterback had, who was a stud, son. He could sling the rock. He stops me as I'm walking by, and he says, "Hey, Joel, just keep working hard. You can make this team." And listen, man, that was like the Lord speaking to me and saying, "Hey, man, you can do this. You can do this." And so I think it's important for those guys who are on scholarship, whatever, that these walk-ons, if you see that they're going to be able to help your club, man, pour into them. I'm all about mentoring now. I turned 60 in April, and I'm about pouring into other people's lives, whether it be ministry or athletics, working out, those types of things. And so I think, and I will say this, Will, for me, all these years later, as a walk-on at the University of North Alabama, it's part of who I am. The underdog, people offered baseball scholarships, and I liked baseball, but I loved football. But I think it's even part of the Lord, the humility side or whatever, that if I'd have got everything I ever wanted, I may not even be sitting here talking to you today, because my life would have gone a whole different path. So I've got to trust that even in the midst of that, of walking on, even for you, Will, at Ole Miss and wherever we find ourselves, that there's a bigger plan that we see sometime, and we can trust him to put us on that path and keep us on that right path. And that's again, the staying humble part was what walk on was for me, because listen, brother, I was on the 7th floor, which was all the academics. When I walked on at UNA, they put me on the 7th floor of Rice Hall. I did not have a roommate, so I spent that whole semester pretty much by myself. And we had public bath and all that kind of stuff in the bathrooms, that kind of thing down the hallway. But I'm telling you, there was a lot of nights that I was just lonely. Man, I was by myself. We didn't have cell phones. There was no FaceTime. There was none of that. And so I drew closer to the Lord during that time, because I knew, man, there's no way I can do this without help. And again, it was a great experience for me. It really was.
Football teaches you a lot of life lessons, and
absolutely,
whole life.
Absolutely, Will. Absolutely, yeah.
And we hear about the walk-on experience and everything, but I mean, there's big conversation at the Power 5 level right now that they want to pretty much terminate a walk-on opportunities for athletes. Yeah. And I feel like, every year we hear about that walk-on miracle story. Heck, the latest one was Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett
I saw him throwing the rock last night with the Rams, man.
Hey, 4 interceptions against my Cowboys. Okay.
I mean, he still has it in him. I know he's encountered some struggles.
He's okay. He's okay.
As all of us has, but for a walk-on quarterback to stick with it and stick to his dreams and take his team to 2 national championships back to back, there's not many people that can hang their helmet on that as a 5-star, So I just feel like
that documentary on ESPN in the next few years. I mean, who does that?
Who does that, man? God. Without a doubt. He's one of a kind, that's for sure. And he's not this big glamorous 6'3" Cam Newton looking person. He's like 5'11", maybe 200 pounds, Yeah. But the dude made some plays that, it's kind of like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a walk-on too, and they made some plays you never expected, out of their size. So, and Baker's now a staple for the Tampa Bay Bucks and is planning on having a second big year this year. So
that 3-year deal, about $80 million. That's not bad for a walk on. I mean, good. I wish you'd join my church and tithe. That's what I wish Baker would do.
But yeah, Mr. Joel, what are your thoughts on some Power 5 coaches, wanting to do away with the opportunity to be in a walk-on? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a mistake. I think, young men like myself who have a dream of playing at the next level, you take that dream away. And, the glamour of college football is the underdog that gets an opportunity to beat the number 1 team at a critical part of the season. And then for that kid to come off the bench and, sling the rock and throw a touchdown pass. And, you just think through that, and they're going to eliminate that whole possibility. And I think they want to raise the scholarship number. Is that right? In the midst of removing the walk-on to like 105 or so, something like that for Division I. So, Will, I don't think it's a good idea, but I understand why Coach Saban. I'm an Auburn guy, but I love Saban. I love his leadership stuff and things that he writes and that type of thing. But he probably got out at the right time, because the college game is not what I enjoyed when I was younger. It is so different now. And then with NIL, name, image, and likeness, and all the money that's being thrown around, okay, come over to our school and we'll pay you this, and quarterbacks get paid this, and running backs get paid this, and wide receiver. I just, that's, listen, guys, I can remember kids becoming disqualified to play in a game because somebody bought them a hamburger.
Yep.
Somebody, and now you've got, okay, here's several $1 million to come and play for us.
You got quarterbacks getting paid at the college level more than majority of backups at the NFL level now, So it's insane. It's and it's hard for these young kids to maneuver, at the age of 18, I couldn't even think of being told, hey, come to this university, we'll pay you $5 million. All then the next one says $3 million, but when you get these incentives, Will's got several friends that went through the process, and they know how it looks. He's got two guys that he played running back with at high school that are both in the NFL now. So it's
that's cool.
But I went to Briarcrest Christian School in Memphis.
Yeah, okay.
And Tyler Beatty, he's at the Broncos right now. He got drafted. He went to Missouri, got drafted by the Ravens. Then he went to the Broncos, and then Jabari Small, he went to Tennessee, and then he got drafted by the Titans. He was a UDFA.
Okay.
The Titans. Okay. And then Big O, Omari, he's going to be probably like a late first round pick from Tennessee. Awesome. He's at Tennessee right now. And and Michael Orr went to Briarcrest. And then Greg Hardy went to Briarcrest, and there's a bunch of guys that
nice alumni for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And there was so much talent that didn't even go play college ball that should have, or our senior year. Yeah. And this never did because of COVID. But there's been so much talent come through Briarcrest, and just shows you how many kids get looked over, and it kind of sucks. But what effects do you think that would have on sports if we didn't have walk-ons? Like if the NCAA came out tomorrow and said no more walk-ons, how do you think that would affect football, basketball, baseball, all of them?
Well, I think for like athletes like Zeke, myself, and others, you would just drop down classification. You would go to NAIA, you would go to Division II, Division III, and you would find. And if you love the game enough, you're going to find somewhere to play.
Right, for sure.
And there's I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a new like IFL International Football League coming up, and we have the Alabama Beavers, and they're going to play here in Huntsville at the new soccer stadium that used to be old Joe Davis baseball stadium.
Yep.
And, they're all over social media. They're having these tryout camps and all that kind of stuff. And again, just the love of the game and looking for opportunities to keep playing. I played slow pitch softball. I played baseball several years out of high school and college, and then of course your body begins to tell you that, okay, you need to slow down. Every time you run, you pull a muscle and all that kind of thing. But for guys that just want to play the game, I think it would be so detrimental to dreams of the legacy guys like at Ole Miss that's had a granddad, a great granddad, and all this kind of stuff, and it's passed down, and they go, you know what, this kid is undersized, so we're not going to offer him a scholarship, but there's money available that he could be a walk-on. You go, we don't do walk-ons anymore. I think it would, I just don't think that's what college football should be about. I think college football is to give people opportunity. And of course, there's club football and there's other outlets, but man, there's nothing like Friday Night Lights and Saturday Night Lights. There's nothing like it. So
I think it would just close the door because walk-ons sometimes mean more to the team than a scholarship kid. That kid that's in there working nonstop and pushing other players. Whether it's the mental aspect or outside of because there's got to be someone to hold those players accountable outside of football too, right? I remember where I went to college, Belhaven. My coach always told us after every meeting, you don't let another Blazer die. And
there you go.
It was kind of harsh, but at the end of the day, it's right. You don't let, whether that's die in the classroom, die physically, or die mentally. So.
Coming back to Coach Saban, who gave the speech about the kid that was running 140 miles per hour and was in the accident, and the Ruggs kid. And man, I pray for him as well. But that family that had a loss, and and he said, "Where was his teammates? Where was, like you were just talking about, Preston? Hey, don't be stupid. What are you doing?" And and I think walk-ons that are trying, that pay in their own way and trying to do that, they may have a better sense of responsibility than even kids that are on scholarship that can speak into the life of one of those kids that's going to be a stud, that's going to be one of those, late round, first round draft picks, and and make several $1 million with their first contract. You need somebody to be your conscience. And sometimes that's one of the things I learned about trying to be a great teammate, not just having great teammates around you, but you be that great teammate that's going to speak into somebody's life and say, listen, we're not going to go out and act a fool. We got a game Saturday, or we've got a game Friday night. And so that's always very important. And I think walk-ons bring that to the table.
Yep. It's a brotherhood you build, and walk-ons are big, because what are you going to do? How are you going to get good looks, for your next game? How you, like, stuff like that, small things, but if they ever do that, that'd probably be a really bad decision, because walk-ons are a big part of college football and teams and locker rooms and all this stuff. Just like you said, talking, putting their sense into that stud that's going to be a late first round draft pick.
Absolutely.
So moving on. So your son was a Prowler recruit, right? And so can you, what are some things you would tell an athlete that is looking for recruiting service?
Somebody that number one, you can trust, and is not going to try to blow up your pocketbook, and that's going to give you good opportunities. And that's what we got, from Preston, when we looked at the scale of what we wanted to do, the places that Zeke would be willing to go, and so Preston was able to help us to look at the part of the south eastern part of the country and that type of thing, and then just be there for you. I mean, every time I text Preston, every time I called him, he returned my text or returned my call. And again, we didn't try any other recruiting services, but my point is, you need to find somebody that you can trust. And when Preston and I think, Preston, I'm speaking for myself, but we hit it off pretty well, that first phone call and things, and then, and then going from there, and you were very kind to us. But I think athletes today just need that help. They don't know who all these coaches are. I mean, the information that Preston gave us with names of coaches, position coaches, head coaches, colleges, universities, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, all the way down. And it just allowed us to be able to sort of pick and choose. Okay, Zeke, this is this far away from the house and your sweetheart. And is this something that, that you want us to pursue, and that type of thing? So I just think it's important that you ask the questions on the front side. And Preston was willing to do that for us. And that's the reason why, we signed with him. Yeah.
You gotta stay close to the sweethearts, don't you?
Oh man, let me tell you all this. So seminary, all us preachers, you get your Bible college, or you get an undergraduate degree, and then you go off seminary, and you say, Lord, I'll go anywhere you want me to go. Did you know that within 5 years, every seminarian pastor is going to be within 2 hours of the mother-in-law?
What?
Yeah, 2 hours of the mother-in-law. They've done the stat. I mean, they put them on the map across the board.
That's great.
And again, you keep mama happy, everybody's going to be happy. But that's the thing. You get them. You'll get close back to home. Thanksgiving, Christmas, that kind of thing. Now, my bride has just been wonderful. She went to Louisville, Kentucky, and we were there for 8.5 years, and that was about 4 hours away. And then with the Eastern time zone, it was even further. But again, helping us to decide where we're going to send our information to, who we're going to follow on social media, who's following us back on social media. All that's so important. Preston helped us to write up a piece on what do we send to the coaches. I don't know what other recruiting services do, but it really helped us to be able to make some good contacts with some guys.
Yeah. I'll just add to that. I try to make my service where you're just not just throwing money at the wall.
Yeah.
Actually, you want to see some value, because I know, we'll try out the NCSA route where you just go create your name in the portal of their service, but they don't initialize anything. You got to go in there and do all the work. Yeah. Which, granted, I come from a pretty good technology background. I went to college for computer science. So when I developed this, my senior capstone, I also used it for Will and built onto it more when he was graduated. It's pretty much an AI intelligence system that creates those messages I was sending you.
Yeah.
And it automatically captures that and goes finds what it should respond to it as. And then the spreadsheets, that's all updated constantly with my web scraping tool that I've developed.
Right.
Yeah. And how that works is it goes into the staff directory of the school and look for keywords. What's a keyword I make it look for is recruiting, because it wants to find the recruiting contact.
There you go.
So that's why I have never seen a service like mine, and that's not to brag on my back. I just feel like when you do buy a recruiting service, you want to see like at least a coach's response and stuff happening. And and one of the heavy grounds I've seen, and I think Will can even say from all the past people we've had on this podcast, every single one always mentioned X and Twitter, because that's the heavy ground for them. And I think, Joel, you even saw most of the responses we got were through X. I mean, granted, we got a couple of emails, but the first contact we made with those coaches was through X. So, as I tell kids all the time, and high school kids can be dynamic and challenging to control what they post on X, but it's crucial for these kids to realize what you post on your X is your first impression to your coach. It's the same way with a job. If you're trying to become a cybersecurity analyst or something like that with a top secret clearance, you're not going to be posting what you're doing on a Saturday night or Sunday night.
Yeah.
Always, so you got to make sure your stuff's clean, and that's a big crucial thing I see with a lot of players nowadays that they struggle with. So.
Preston, I'll tell you, and I don't know who all will be watching this podcast or vidcast, but I will say this, that when we decided to land on Campbellsville, you said, Joel, don't send me any more money. You said, I want to continue to have a relationship with you because I believe in Zeke, but my services as far as there, you've made up your mind to do that. And I think that was sort of, at the end of 1 month and another month was coming up. You said, listen, I'm good. And I want to tell you, Preston, that meant a lot to me. That let me know that it was more than just, this is not about just making money, in which, you got to pay your bills and all that kind of good stuff as well. Yeah. But that's what blessed me that. So if somebody asks me today, says, hey man, do you know of a recruiting service, whatever? I said, yeah, Prowler. That's where you need to go. And so, you guys treated us fair, and you helped us to make some contact with some guys and things. And, with FAFSA, all that stuff that the kids were trying to have to fill out. And of course, with the NAIA Division II and Division III, that's big time important because they normally don't give full rides. And so, they'd always say, well, have you filled out your FAFSA? I said, yes, but it's in this world that I have no idea when it's going to come in and that type of thing. And so, you helped us to talk through that and things. And again, just being able to ask the questions to somebody that believes in your son means a whole lot.
Yeah, I think it's great that Preston, you have to build something. You have to build trust,
There you go.
Preston, his main goal is he's always just loved seeing kids go play college ball. So,
amen.
Because he never played high school ball, and he went and played college ball. And it's pretty crazy, because that shows you that you can do anything.
That's right.
Football. So he just loves, put the athlete first. He loves helping athletes. And so I think that's what's great about the Prowler. But switching platforms here. So the NIL impact on college athletes. That's what we're going to talk about. So experiences is with NIL opportunities or during or after their college career. What are your thoughts on the NIL opportunities during or after their an athlete's collegiate career?
Just like a young man or young lady that goes off to school and maybe has zero athletic ability, but they can work and be able to earn money based upon their skill set, their talent, whatever the case is. I do think there should have been some type of compensation for these young men that play football and other sports as well. And I would Title IX with our females and that type of thing, which is probably a whole nother conversation. But I just think it's important that somewhere this has got to be governed. Mm-hmm. It can't just be the Wild West. Somebody, they've talked about having a college football czar. I don't know if that's the answer, but somewhere, somehow, some way, the money, as we've seen, the the salary cap for the National Football League is what, 200 something million now. I remember it when it was about 109 million. And just look what has happened. The escalating salaries of quarterbacks and wide receivers this particular time. And again, in college football, you just don't want to be the ones that have the deepest pockets, like a University of Texas or some of these others, to be able to, okay, I can buy every person that I want, for the next 3 years. So again, compensation for some of these kids that's never had anything, that come from that side of town, that their parents have had nothing, their grandparents have had nothing. I think they should be able to earn a wage, but somewhere somebody has got to step in with some, and of course the NCAA has proven that they can't, that they are abject failure in so many ways. So I don't know if it's going to be an outside entity that comes in to help that, to get a college football czar. I don't know, but Will, Pressa, that again, men much smarter than I am are going to have to figure this thing out, or it's going to destroy the sport.
Oh, I totally agree, and I think it's going to take a group of schools and colleges coming together to get that done. Because I think the NCAA, they kept it under the wraps for a long time, and I think they were getting so much pressure to finally do it that they just said, heck with it, open the doors completely without any limitations, And I think where they messed up is they put the transfer portal and the NIL both together at the same time and initiated. I think if they would have rolled out one at a time, it could have prevented some of these things with more, regulations around them to control it.
But everybody's afraid of a lawsuit, Preston, and they're afraid, okay, if we put our foot down in this area, because we live in such a litigious society, somebody's going to sue. And of course, some of those guys did sue, and they've gotten settlements and that type of thing. But, how do you, parse out $2.1 billion to individuals back to 1970? I don't know what, all the details of some of this money that's going all these different places to different players. But I tell you, they need to offer an apology to Reggie Bush.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude. I mean, take away a kid's Heisman. Are you kidding me?
And it's not like the Heisman. The reason he won the Heisman wasn't because of the money he was making or that he supposedly received.
That dude was a stud, man.
Yeah.
One of the greatest ever. And they used him as a poster child to do some of that. And see, it's just crazy, stupid things like that makes you don't want to trust the governing body of the sport that you love.
Correct.
So again, you may be right. It may be some of these Power Fives, brother, that wind up coming together and say, okay, guys, we've got to tame the Wild West, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yep.
So
there's so many challenges and there's so many benefits that come with NIL deals also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're definitely, like you said, definitely needs to be governed. There needs to be limits, but I think it's great that athletes are getting paid for going out there and putting their career on the line, their health on the line. A lot of stuff, and it's like a full-time job playing college football. So they definitely deserve to get paid. But I think it gets a little outrageous sometimes because you used to go to college to get to the NFL to get paid, But now it's you can stay in college and get paid millions. So we're really trying. I guess the dream of being in the league is still there, but getting that money, But you have to think about it. Only the big-time athletes are getting that big money.
That's true.
The background of the smaller athletes that make a team, they're not getting paid that much. But it's good because NCAA pays them a certain amount just because they're on the team, which is good. And I think was that there before NIL? Did they do that before NIL or?
There was a stipend that was given. I think.
So, certain schools will get stipends and stuff to specific athletes.
Yeah, and so at least that's happening, and then. Not everybody's getting paid that money, but there definitely needs to be some, like leaving colleges just because someone else is paying you more money. That's kind of, I would probably do it too. I can't say no, but
and that's a good point, Will, because all of us, all of us have a price, and that's regrettable, but it's also human nature that if I can create generational wealth for my family, and I use my body or my arm or my legs to do that, and I only have a short window to do that, but I want to make sure that my great grandkids are able to go to the college of their choice to do whatever they want to do. Yes, I agree completely that they need to be compensated. I just think, 18 to 22-year-olds, there's not a lot of those age kids that are mature enough to handle that unless they, some financial planner steps into their life or something along those lines, because, we've seen all the stories of these wealthy athletes that wind up retiring and have $0 because they've blown all their money and that type of thing.
A prime example of that is what's an NBA star that has been seen homeless lately and all drugged out? Lonnie West or whatever. He was spotted at the bank. I saw 3 days ago on some video I was watching on Facebook. He didn't even have a clue where he was, but he still knew he was a former NBA star. And the lady was filming him, and she was like, "Yeah, you realize you were on an NBA Finals team one time with LeBron James." It's just
wow.
That's a prime example of if you don't have the right fundamentals from an upbringing, but also someone advising you through with this, especially at a young age like 18 to 22, when you're getting already tons of things thrown at you that could lead you in the wrong direction, right? I mean, prime example is Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow struggled early on, but he found his path, right? And now he became one of the biggest figures to look up to for certain athletes, So
absolutely,
there definitely has been a bunch of changes in the college football world, and it's a lot for. I mean, it's just growing. You didn't realize how big college football was until NIL came around. It is a bit. It's big, and it's just going to grow. And every year the hype gets. Like I said on the last podcast, every year college football gets bigger and bigger. Everybody, the anticipation grows and more. But
see, Will, I'm old enough to remember. I think it was Peyton Manning was one of the first QBs in the National Football League that got paid $1 million a game. He signed for $16 million a year.
Wow.
And so he was getting paid $1 million a game. And I'm going, how outrageous. $1 million a game. Well, now that's nothing. If you're a quarterback in the National Football League, you're getting paid 60, 61, 62 million. And, if you're Kirk Cousins, 100 million of it's guaranteed. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
It's big money. And
it's funny.
It's not a bad gig playing football and getting paid millions. It's like, wow.
It. Yeah.
We talk about the millions increasing for athletes too, but it's funny. I was listening to, I think it was Patrick Mahomes or someone else talked the other day, and they were like, I never realized in college, but they both were saying that when they finally started making the money they are making now, they didn't realize how high their taxes become. And they're like, it's actually not as much as you think we make.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I forget the other guy that was on this podcast talking with him, but he was telling athletes that if you invest wisely in other approaches to get your tax breaks, but you got to invest it or put it into a charity, that's how you make your generational wealth. It's not just because of your arm. So, it goes back to the foundation of what we were talking about, earlier. So,
sorry guys, I had to get my computer was saying it was charged, but my battery went down.
That's all right.
I got my charger real quick. I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it.
Now you down in Oxford right now, Will?
Whoa, where did I go? There we go. Yes, sir. I'm down in Oxford, getting ready for the school year, and we just moved into our new house and getting ready for the football season too.
So, Will, do you remember Grantham? He was he won a Super Bowl with Joe Namath. He was a big Ole Miss guy.
I've definitely heard that name.
His son is married to one of my children's ministers when I was at First Baptist Church Athens. So they were always going to the Grove and going down to Ole Miss games and that type of thing. They said, man, we want Zeke to come down to Ole Miss. I said, I don't know if he's going to be quite the athlete to make it in the SEC kind of thing, but they were always very kind. But they say it's beautiful down there, brother, during the fall of the year.
Ole Miss, it's the prettiest. They don't lie when they say it's the prettiest campus in America.
That's cool, man.
That's cool. I mean, it's definitely an experience. There's always a lot going on. You have to be, you have to stay focused. but it's a great college town. It's great being here. It's awesome. But yeah, we just moved into our new house, got everything moved in. It was a lot.
Yeah, man.
But we're getting ready for the football season. We're supposed to, we're AP top. We were supposed to be top 5, but I'm fine with being out of top 5. I don't want them to jinx us because this is the best roster. Right. This is on paper, we're the best roster in the SEC. Georgia's right there, but this is the best roster to ever come through Ole Miss, and so we're it's pretty cool to see.
It's gonna be a fun season for sure.
Oh, yeah. SEC is gonna be crazy. You got Texas, Oklahoma now, and it's gonna be. Everybody in the SEC's got talent, but we'll see what happens. I think everybody's overhyping. Giving Texas a little too hype. Their first year in the SEC. It's not the Big 12.
It's not going to be a walk in the park.
That's right. Amen to that. That's right.
Like Nick Saban said on that on the SEC network. He was like, Texas, they're going to be good. They're going to be fine, but it's not a walk in the park over here.
That's right.
It's the SEC. It's not.
And I think Coach Saban knows a little bit about that for sure.
Oh yeah. Everybody's bragging about his replacement, Kalen DeBoer, but I'm just like, guys.
He's coming from the Pac-12.
The Pac-12 to the SEC is totally different nature.
Ask Auburn about bringing somebody from the West Coast.
Exactly. That's who I compare him to.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Interesting.
It is. I will give him this. He's been able to retain a lot of players I didn't think he would be able to hold on to.
Oh no, he's a great recruiter, and he did great things at Washington.
Yes, absolutely.
But you never know. But it's SEC ball is definitely different, and how Texas ended up getting beat by Washington, right? And Texas beat Alabama, then Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia goes to Alabama goes to the Rose Bowl. How's that work?
We play the game, baby. It's all good.
You can go to Vanderbilt in the middle on a Saturday, and you're probably top 25. You're playing Vanderbilt, and the Vanderbilt will beat you at home.
That's right.
That's their place.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
It's SEC ball. You never know what's going to happen. But going back to NIL, Mr. Joel, how do you think NIL affected personal branding and career development?
Well, these kids that have the right mentor in their life to help them to, look at their NIL, their name, their image, their likeness of what they can do. Man, they're going to be successful at that next level, especially if they, bring a 5-star pedigree, to the table, and they can run, catch, and tackle, and that type of thing. Again, I think we're all in agreement. We believe these kids should be compensated. But now with NIL, you have the University of Oregon that just has a war chest that is, it has no ending. And of course, the University of Texas, that's now SEC. It's just, again, utilizing the tools that are given to you that in my generation we didn't have. Well, now that we have these tools, use them. Right. Preston, you were mentioning AI a little while ago. Use it to your advantage. Leverage that to serve others, help kids get noticed and that kind of thing. But as far as NIL is concerned, I just believe there should be some kind of regulation at the end of the day.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like. I'm usually one of these guys, man. Hey, I'm a free spirit, man. Love the Lord. Hey, serve Jesus, all those kind of things. But yet you look at life and you see young men that's never had anything and they're given everything. It usually does not end well. They wind up in my office in counseling. Yeah, and it's just life, and so given too much too soon, it's a recipe for disaster. Right, and so I think NIL, any of those type of opportunities that young men, young women have that are given something just because they can play a sport, there needs to be some accountability in that. So I don't know what that looks like yet.
You saying, how athletes who didn't have anything and then they're given everything kind of refers to this. What advice would you give them navigating the NIL landscape?
I think I touched on it a few minutes ago. Yeah. Make sure that if you are one of those individuals that's going to be blessed financially, and if your parents have no background in financial planning, it's worth the investment to get someone that's very reputable to help you to take those monies, to find the right tax bracket, what you can put your money into, and then to put money into savings to save down the road. You have X number of money that you'll use here on the front side to get your card, buy your parents a house, do those kind of things. But I just think there's wisdom, and the Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there's wisdom. So I think the more people you have on your team in your corner to help you make these wise choices, especially as an 18 to 22-year-old, man, you're going to turn around. What's the baseball player that gets paid $1 million every June or July by the Mets? And it's happened for the last 30 years because that's how he structured his contract. I can't think of the kid's name right off the top of my head. I apologize.
I was still reading about it the other day. I can't remember the guy's name, but they were just actually talking about it on the Diamondbacks game.
But you need somebody like that who'll say, listen, one of these days you're going to be fat and 50. So do you want to work? When you retire from ball, and if you've spent everything you have and you're going to be flipping burgers for $15 an hour at McDonald's, or do you want somebody to help you invest these monies so that you'll never have to work after you retire? That would be my advice, Will. You need to have some people in your corner, very reputable, that will say, son, you can't buy a $200,000 car right now. You need to buy a $50,000 car, and let's put this other in a CD that's long-term and make sure it's making money for you. Right. And again, NIL is more than just money, but the bottom line is you can create generational wealth by doing it the right way. And that's what you want for these kids. That's what you want for them.
And I mentioned this on the podcast last week with a guy I work with at Montgomery Contract Company that he played at Georgia Tech, but he's also heavily involved in the NIL aspect now. And I was like, a lot of these kids that are receiving the NIL money are coming from communities that need a lot of help, right?
Yeah.
I hope that a lot of them are being urged to give that money back to that community, to grow something with inside that community that could, not only provide change now, but generation change that we can see it trickle down the line, because there's a lot of kids nowadays that are getting involved with violence, and guns are rampant in our streets right now in our cities. So giving back to our community with the money you're blessed to make, I think is crucial nowadays. So
creating those tax sheltered annuities, things that's going to pay off down the road. If you're willing, again, a financial planner helps with those types of things. Right. And again, giving a kid, hey, we're going to give you a Lamborghini to come and sign with us, and you show up at your signing in a Lambo, and you go, oh my goodness gracious. And it's immediately going to depreciate $100,000 as soon as you drive off the lot. Right. I mean, that's just not a smart purchase. That's just not something wise, again, coming back to your original question, Will, I just having people around you, number one, that love you and believe in you, and then have your best interests at heart. And, you don't want to be in one of those documentaries like you see with these child actors and actresses whose parents are always there to take the paycheck from the kiddo. You want people around you that you trust, that love you and have your best interests at heart. Right.
And that's in real life. Yes, it's in regular life too.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
But moving on from that, this 5-star ratings, the 24/7 Sports does. A lot of the athletes get caught up in their rating, and nowadays, and our opinion on maybe what's your opinion on the Prowler rating? How can it be more fitting, especially nowadays, than the 24/7 Sports ratings?
Well, Preston came out with that after Zeke, had already signed that, but I think it's a great idea. Zeke had 205 tackles, 4 interceptions, had a great stat line, and didn't make All-State because, and our team went to the Final Four, and,
Zeke, not Joel, I think you remember me. I tweeted something out saying, I can't believe this kid was left out of this group.
I remember seeing that.
Wasn't that Jacob Cornejo kid left off that list too? And
now Jacob made it as running back in 4A ball.
There was another kid that was left off.
Jake McDonald in 6A ball at Athens High School.
That's right, Jake
6A
McDonald.
Ball as a linebacker at Athens, and he didn't make All-State team, not even honorable mention. Yeah. And again, I almost, as a pastor, I have to be careful But when you've seen your son work hard and that type of thing, and they don't get recognized. I talked with Coach LeBlanc, and he says, Joel, I don't understand. The stat line was there. And, of course, Brandon Mush, who is now at Charleston Southern, is that right?
Yeah.
I've been texting back and forth with Brandon, and, he set every record there was and all that kind of thing, and had that one offer. And, he didn't even make All-State as the quarterback. He made it as an athlete. And you go, well, what do you have to do? Well, maybe be from South Alabama instead of North Alabama, and all that. Just coming back to what you do, I appreciate somebody else putting their knowledge in the game, that you just don't have to go by that one group. And you have individuals that say, listen, you may say this kid is a 2-star, but I look at his stats and I see him as a 3-star or a 4-star. I think that's important, that you have more than one look and more than one rating. And I appreciate you doing that, Preston. I really do.
Because I think the star rating nowadays is outdated, because first off, we have the transfer portal now.
Yeah.
I know from when I graduated high school, I was only 6 foot when I graduated. I ended up being 6'4" by the end of my college journey.
Wow.
So to see a player, like Zeke, and who knows if he grows anymore. He might not, he might do. But if you put him in a good program through our star rating, which our star rating, just to break it down, we think a 1-star needs a lot of improvement. So we advise them to go to the Division III or NAIA route. And then you got 2-star, they have potential to be a solid player, could potentially reach that Division I level, because they got all the criteria. They just might need more weight on them.
Right.
So we push them to go Division II and III level, or NAIA or JUCO route. And it just keeps climbing from there. You eventually get to the 5-star, which is the star player that everybody wants, but our star scale doesn't leave out that low man on the scale.
That's right.
That could possibly be that player one day. Depending on what program he gets in. There's a couple West Morgan kids I sent to the small D3 schools and stuff this past year. That there's a couple of them, just like Zeke, if they get the right recognition, they could possibly be a top Division II school or Division I FCS. Who knows where they can get to since they're in the right program. And I actually saw a coach the other day, and I think I retweeted it on my feed. He coaches at NAIA school. I think it was Lindsey Wilson, actually.
Yeah.
And it was baseball, their head baseball coach, and he tweeted out, Division I coaches, please stop calling my athletes without my permission.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty funny, because they're at NAIA school, and you see the Division I coaches are going there to try to pick their players out because they went there and got bigger. And first off, a lot of people don't realize this, but when you go the NAIA route, you're not using any eligibility at the NCAA level.
Wow.
So when you come out of there, you got 4 more years left of eligibility.
That's cool. Yeah.
So, a lot of players don't realize that. And the way the new market is, I don't see a problem at all going that route, because some of the NAIA facilities are nicer than the Division II nowadays.
Yeah, Campbellsville, I'd put them up against any small school, Division III, even some Division II schools now. But I just, again, you get the right coach and the right fit. And then, listen, I'm going to get you to give me some serum, Preston, and I'll give it to Zeke. If Zeke could grow from 5'10" to about 6'1" or 6'2" while he's at Campbellsville, that would be great, brother. That would be great.
Ask Will. I don't know where it came from, because even our pediatrician doctor said Will would be taller than me at the end of it, and he's nowhere near. He's a little shorter.
6'2". Come on, I'm not that far. Not that far.
Right. That's great.
But no, I mean, it definitely shows you that you can go to these programs and get bigger. And that rating system that Preston is going it's definitely going to encourage a lot of athletes in a way too.
Absolutely.
And then tell them what they need to work on.
There you go.
It may hurt their feelings a little bit, but I mean, you got to be honest. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. So
absolutely.
But thank you. That's about it. Thank you, Mr. Joel, for coming on.
Man, guys, I have had a blast. Thank y'all so much. Preston, appreciate the invitation. Will, getting to know you as well,
Yes,
man. Thank you, guys. I hope this helps somebody, encourages someone. And if you guys are watching, reach out to Preston. The Prowler will help your son to find a place that he can go and play some ball after high school, which is what this is all about.
And we'll be getting more official here soon. We're supposed to be having some mics and some cameras come in. So
there you go. There you go.
Preston's getting all that situated. And so we'll be, just trying to grow the platform. And
good.
These kids need to come on and go find their home playing ball somewhere. So
amen. Sounds great.
But, thank y'all for tuning into the Prowler Podcast. And we look forward to continuing to expand your awareness of our platform. And we look forward to partnering with those who are serious about playing their sport at the next level. And our weekly quote is, talk about your blessings more than you talk about your burdens. Tim Tebow. So on our upcoming podcast, we'll have more active players and coaches and former coaches and players. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week. And as always, Prowler up. And thank you, Mr. Joel, again for coming on and sharing your insight. And Preston will, go Reps.
Whatever.
That's good.